Are today, Mondays with the Mayor. I hope that you had a very wonderful 4th of July. I know it's probably a little bit different than in years past, but I hope you enjoyed that time with family and friends and those you care about. I want to welcome Shane Griffin right now, our president with the Mount Pleasant Chamber. How are you, Shane? I hope you had a good 4th of July.
Hey, Rebecca, I'm good. Thank you. Yes, July 4th was great. Spent some time in the upstate. Was away for about 9 days, and it was nice to kind of unplug a little bit. You're never completely off when you're in sales, but it was good to kind of get away for a bit and relax a little bit. So thanks for your help, obviously, Rebecca, in coordinating Mondays with the mayor. We are always excited to speak to the Honorable Will Haynie and also with Lauren Sims. We have a number of things to cover. So at this time, I'll welcome on Mayor Haynie and Lauren Sims.
Hey.
I can't possibly think that we have really anything to talk about today. Is there anything going on in the town?
Yeah, there's a weather front coming through from Georgia in the 54 or whatever. I don't know, 40, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the only break we've gotten this year has been the murder hornets. They decided to go elsewhere. They weren't getting enough attention, I think.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week, to say the least. Mr. Mayor, I know the emergency special council meeting on Monday, you passed the mask ordinance, and obviously that's been a hot topic in the town, and wanted to give you an opportunity here to speak to our members about what that mask ordinance is, how long it will be in effect, and what you've been seeing around town over the past week and how our folks are adjusting to the mask ordinance.
Sure. I think everybody knows that, first of all, let me give the background on this. Everyone is very happy that the death rate of COVID-19 is much lower than it could be. It's much lower than it was predicted to be. Nobody ever wants to be proven right that something was really important by more people dying. I mean, that's just wrong. So you can get a shot of my dog in the background here. That's Zoom life these days. Anyway, what spurred this? It started in Greenville. Greenville got the first mask ordinance in the state. And what we were hearing, and not last week, I wasn't with you last week, but the week before that, I was in an emergency teleconference or Zoom meeting almost every day last week, because what was happening was a rise in the hospitalization rate. And then sure enough, last Tuesday, we passed our mask ordinance on Monday, went into effect on Wednesday. On Tuesday, our Roper St. Francis system reported a 65% increase in one day in hospitalizations. So I just want to, I've got this coming out both ears. The death rate is the trailing indicator of this. It is what it is, and it's going to be what it's going to be for COVID. And I don't think anybody can predict what that will be. But it's the hospitalization rate is what sounds the alarm, that is a leading indicator. And when that rate started going up, that's when the discussion about mask ordinances started going around. So I don't want anybody to think that this was some overreaction to some inaccurately reported rate on deaths or anything like that. This was really driven by the increase in the hospitalization rate. So Greenville did theirs, and then Columbia did theirs, and then Charleston did one. And I can't remember who got one in there, but we met on Monday, a week ago Monday. We passed ours. We got what I would call the broadest one that would pass council. By law, any emergency ordinance of our council has to have a 2/3 supermajority. There are 8 council plus me, that's 9. So you got to have 6. So what passed for us got exactly 6 votes. And that is required in groceries and pharmacies. That's to protect the most vulnerable of our population. And for retail workers or public buildings or places like that. Lauren's got a copy. There's some other nuances, but basically what you need to know is that's where they are required. But I just want to say this, ordinance or not, there's no reason, it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't hurt anyone to wear a mask when you go out, even if you go somewhere where it's not required, like a hardware store or a home goods place or a furniture store, something like that. We know that it reduces the spread of this, and we've been at this, I wish we had a number, Monday with the mayor number or whatever. I've lost track of how many of these we've done. But we are the one thing this virus needs for it to be perpetuated. We can stop that. Social distancing, washing our hands, and wearing a mask. We can stop that. And that's all this is about. People say, what about enforceability? And again, I'll sound like a broken record. We have the same number. This is not a criminal thing, so it's not the police. We have the same number of people enforcing other codes, other things like, overall shirts and shoes in restaurants, even though that's not a town ordinance, but non-smoking in restaurants, those type things. So a lot of times what makes the most sense is when you put the force of law behind something, the public realizes this is serious business. And I'll give you another example, hurricane evacuations. I've never seen anybody get a ticket for not evacuating for a hurricane, but yet we issue hurricane evacuations, and the town of Mount Pleasant goes into our operating conditions, our OPCONs, to effectuate that. And we put, equipment and people in motion, but it doesn't mean somebody's going to drag you off. Now, I did talk to the town administrator. Under our form of government, staff does not report to the mayor. I don't run the town on a day-to-day basis, and I try not to give that impression, but I don't know. But anyway, he did tell me that we're in the compliance phase, we're in the awareness phase, and just talking with businesses and saying, hey, this is what the ordinance says. You need to make sure that, to the best of your ability, people are wearing masks. There is a medical exemption. Somebody can say, I have a medical exemption from that, and you have to take their word for it. They don't have to prove it. So I think ours is not draconian. I don't think ours is over the top. If anything, it's probably a little weaker than it ought to be, because the point of this is to defeat this dang virus that has dominated our lives since late February, early March, and to get on with it. And I'll say that's another discussion item about some rumors that are out there about things that might be forthcoming. But that's the mask ordinance in a nutshell, Shane.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is, it's, obviously, when I watched council on Monday, there were passionate people on both sides of the topic, and it's an interesting position to be in, to listen to that feedback from your community, but then obviously too to make a decision that is going to be in the best interests of the citizens and the businesses that are involved in this as well. So I know the council took their time. I know you took your time. You looked at other communities, Greenville, you mentioned, Columbia, Charleston, and made the decision that was in the best interest of the citizens of Mount Pleasant, right?
I believe so. And I know at the time I think that only 3 or 4 of those existed. And notice what's happened since that time. I don't mean because of us, but in the flow of public debate. You've seen Myrtle Beach, Horry County, Williamsburg County, Hilton Head, Bluffton, Beaufort, Colleton County, Kiowa. I don't know if Seabrook passed theirs, Folly Beach, Isle of Palms. Did Sullivan's Island pass one? I can't keep track. But it's obvious that we are not an outlier. It's obvious that, Edisto passed one. After not passing one, then they did. Isle of Palms didn't pass theirs, then they did. So I don't think having one makes us an outlier. I don't think having one makes us, the unicorn that's out there. It's becoming the norm, especially for places where that hospitalization rate and that case rate is going up. And I will say this, Dr. Cole at the Medical University in one of those teleconferences I was in 2 weeks ago said, remember, any action you take, there's a 2-week delay before you see it. The Memorial Day spike, 2 weeks after Memorial Day, there was a big spike in cases. So give this 2 weeks. At our council meeting a week from tomorrow, that doesn't mean that you're going to see this at that point, this dramatic decrease in the spread of cases. It takes 2 full weeks for that to show up.
Well, it is interesting. If we're talking about statistics, I found an article on a website called zerohedge.com, and forgive me, I got some notes here, but it says that the coronavirus is close to not being an epidemic anymore based on the number of deaths. So that's really good news. Deaths in the country have nearly have gone to a level where the virus will cease to qualify as an epidemic. That's according to the CDC and their prevention rules. So, and some other notes, the CDC qualifies a disease outbreak as an epidemic if the number of deaths exceeds a certain percentage of total deaths per week. And the number of deaths attributable to COVID, pneumonia, and the flu have actually been going down for 10 consecutive weeks. So
Good.
to your point, Mr. Mayor, this is a crucial time for us. The death rate is going the way that it should, and every life obviously is important. And we mourn for the folks that we've lost to COVID, pneumonia, the flu, and every other disease and ailment that we have in the world. But to have that little bit of good news, we've been going on now 4-5 months of this. And when I saw that this morning on my Twitter feed and did the work to find out, to make sure it wasn't fake news, you know, that to me was a little bit of a relief. Obviously, folks are still dying and it's still very serious, but looking at it from that point, maybe we're starting to turn the corner a little bit. I did read some more information today about a possible vaccine first quarter of 2021. So hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, we're right there to be able to move past this and get back to our new normal.
That would be great. And again, even if it's not an epidemic or a pandemic, what we're fighting now is the hospitalization rate. The medical university said that they're seeing younger patients and they're sicker, but they're not dying. So that's good. We don't want people to die to prove that we were right to sound the alarm all along. That would be sick. If the hospitalization rate keeps going up, that's an issue. And I think with the mask ordinances becoming more common in at least the larger areas. And you know, I don't have a problem like when the governor says there's no statewide mask mandate. I can understand how Pageland County or Chesterfield County may have a total different view than we have down here with the influx of tourists. And they probably don't have a Shim Creek where there's nightlife or, you know, like downtown Charleston. And I totally get it. So I think it's good that the places that have hotspots or have potential super spreader events or locations just take these moderate precautions. And what we hope to see through the mask ordinances, and I'm hoping we're right on that 2-week, you know, from implementation to seeing, I'm hoping those hospitalization rates drop and we can take a sigh of relief. I'm glad you reported that because I feel like we're on the cusp of I don't know if we'll be back to normal, but we won't, you know, everything won't be so dominated by this like it has been.
Right, and I know for me, you know, I'm still not going out much. And when I do go out, I do wear my mask. As far as my, you know, my job, I'm not going out and seeing clients like I did. So I think if you continue to take the steps that you're supposed to, wash your hands, wear your mask, and social distance, if everybody kind of jumps on board and does that, you know, we can push our way through this. And to your point, Mr. Mayor, the news will be dominated by good news that we're past this and we're moving into, you know, the new year and a vaccine is on the horizon and so on and so forth. And, you know, that's at least my prayer right now. So, Lauren, I wanted to come to you because prior to all of this going down, the town of Mount Pleasant was rocking and rolling as far as economic development. Things were on a good track. And then all of a sudden, you know, our world completely changed in mid to late March.
Yeah, COVID definitely threw a wrench in things. So we pulled numbers today for the Economic Development Committee of Council, which met today. We pulled the number of new businesses in towns, and that includes both resident businesses or Mount Pleasant-based businesses and non-Mount Pleasant businesses, so folks who come here to do work and they have to pull a business license, things of that nature. But we did a 3-year kind of look back and then a comparison for this year. So for 2018, we had 1,471 new businesses licensed. For 2019, we had 1,395. And then for our 2020 fiscal year, we had 1,460 new businesses licensed. Now there is a little caveat to that last year number, in that we had, of those, that 1,460, 380 of those were short-term rentals. So if you'll recall, council passed the new short-term rental ordinance, which required everyone who operated a short-term rental to have a business license. And so we saw kind of a heavy influx of business licenses being pulled during that time. So if we subtract those out, that gives us so far 1,080 businesses. So we were tracking right on the cusp of where we should be. And honestly, it promised to be a very, I guess, successful year in town of Mount Pleasant in terms of new businesses and economic development. And unfortunately, COVID came to town. Unwelcome guest here, but that just kind of shows you where we were prior to COVID. And we did pull, in addition to these numbers, we did a 3-month comparison of March through May. This information will be available on our website shortly when the minutes of the meeting are posted. I encourage you to look at it because you'll see where that sharp drop off occurred due to COVID. So you'll see numbers kind of bumping along. Everything is tracking, looks very positive. And then starting March, you start to see numbers in some cases drop by half. And so that's where we were able to see the very negative economic impact of COVID in terms of our new businesses. And then in addition to the month by month comparison, we also broke it down by industries. And certainly one of the biggest areas where we saw the drop off was construction companies, and then miscellaneous, which would include things like software development, special events, car dealerships, things of that nature. Those significantly dropped off. The one that did not, pretty surprisingly, was the e-retailers, gas stations, groceries, nursing care facilities, wholesale accommodations. And the other one would be educational services, professional care services, and professional services. A lot of those things obviously were very necessary to continue on, many of those being essential services. So those we did not see drops in, and that's a good sign. So we're hopeful that as we continue to see the, I guess, proverbial light at the end of the COVID tunnel, that our numbers are going to continue to improve and increase, and we can finish the year out on a good note. Probably not as good as what we had hoped to originally, but a good note nonetheless.
Lauren, what are you hearing now since we're, a week or 5 days a week into the mask ordinance? What are you hearing from business owners in regards to the mask ordinance? Well received, complaints? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's generally well received. I think there have been a couple that we have received complaints about that are finding it difficult to ask their customers who are not wearing masks to put one on. There seems to be a little bit of a hesitancy to engage in that conversation. And that's understandable. And so, like the mayor said, we're in the compliance phase and education phase right now. So right now, when we receive a complaint about a business not following the ordinance, we're trying to give them the benefit of the doubt and contact them and just say, hey, I want to let you know that we have received complaints about your business not following the ordinance. Here's a copy of it. Let us know what we can do to help and to support. But by and large, they have been tremendously supportive of it. And we monitor social media just to keep a pulse on things, in addition to receiving formal complaints at the town. And so far, the response on social media has been positive as well. We're seeing lots of reports back about, hey, I ate out at this restaurant and all the servers were wearing masks and felt very safe. And one thing we've been telling businesses all along is perception is reality. Folks want to feel safe, and they're going to feel safe when they see some of those physical preventive measures being implemented. So we've done what we think we can to support the businesses. We've created a sign that they can go ahead and print and use as required by the ordinance, to have a conspicuous sign letting folks know that masks are required. But if there's anything else that we can do to provide to our businesses, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And these businesses and our chamber members obviously can visit the website to check out the business portal. We've talked about the business portal before, but just expand on that again for folks that may be new to Mondays with the Mayor. There's a lot of information there at the business portal at your website.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do our best to keep it updated and fresh with content, but it is a site on our webpage. You just go to the main town page, tompsc.com. And we have an entire section for business support during COVID, and it has everything from reopening guidelines per industry to copies of our ordinance, the printable signs, contact information. and then a whole litany of resources for things like your Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act information, all of that. So anything that you could need as a business, we've got a resource linked to this portal. So I just encourage you to check it out if you're looking for information. That's probably the good place to start. We've also got it linked to the One Region page so that you can get that information and make sure that you're in alignment with that strategy and movement as well.
Excellent. Lauren, thank you for all that you do over at the town. Thank you for keeping our businesses up to date and for keeping our members up to date as well. Mr. Mayor, there's a wild rumor running around town that I wanted you to address here to our members, sir.
Speaking of fake news, our TV outlets saying that there was word out there. I don't know, how they got it, but they actually got in touch with me to find out if it was true that I was going to issue a stay-at-home order for the town of Mount Pleasant that would last for 2 weeks. That is not true. There will be no stay-at-home orders. We have a mask ordinance. We're doing everything else we can do. So I don't know where that stuff comes from. I think it might come from a certain social media outlet that has to do with, an attribute of your house. The same one that before the bridge march there was someone on there saying they had seen 18-wheeler trucks, containers, unloading explosives and ammunition that were going to be used in the town of Mount Pleasant for that bridge march. Well, everybody saw how peaceful that bridge march was. Everybody saw the wonderful picture of our police chief. So if you hear these kind of rumors on social media, please don't believe them.
Yeah, that's, we'll just move along from that. So as you said, fake news, not true. So we'll move along to more of the facts. I understand you have another council meeting coming up next Tuesday. A number of things are on the agenda.
Right.
The council is trying to get caught back up and get back on track, correct?
Yes, not only the day-to-day things like annexations and things for approval, mostly along the lines of planning and that type stuff, meaning things that are being built, but also some bigger things. Our comprehensive plan, which requires by law a public hearing, and we are on track. If we put notice out, there has to be 30-day notice. And I think, Lauren, you were sitting in the room. I think it's going to work for that notice to go out, that public hearing where everybody can come and say anything they want about the proposed comp plan, to be at our August council meeting. And then we will pass this comprehensive plan. This would have been done by now. This would have been done in April or May were it not for COVID. But you don't do something that impactful that lasts for a decade, under emergency circumstances. That's not the most transparent way to do it. Other things, we're working on building height maps and things like that. And one of the things we're trying to get to in the town of Mount Pleasant, and we will get there, I'm just not sure how many steps it takes, is instead of you just having like your building height limit here is 50 feet, it's this many floors. You get the same number of floors, because we're trying to get away from what I call the dead box design. You go right to that limit and you get a flat roof and AC on top. And I think 20, 30 years from now, that's not the look that we will look back and be proud of for our town. And I know that may not be the most earth-shattering news ever, but at some point we will be very glad that we have an interesting skyline for Mount Pleasant instead of the flat roofs that we're seeing. That's a combination of building height limits and a dynamic market, where basically if you can build it, and the real estate market has been so strong, you didn't have to have an appealing design, even though we have a design review board, and I'm not knocking any of that, but there was no compulsion to be the more beautiful building. The compulsion was to provide the most square feet, because you knew it was gonna get used. And that's good to have a healthy market, but I think we can have a healthy market and we can have some aesthetics. So that's something that we will go to.
Well, Mr. Mayor and Lauren, we thank you very much for your time. Anything else that you would like to communicate to the members before we let you go?
Just as the mayor was mentioning about the comprehensive plan, I do want to remind everyone that the updated draft is available on our website. So Please make sure you take some time. It is a rather lengthy document, but it's important, as the mayor indicated. It's a 10-year document for the town. So please make sure you take some time to look through that and prepare your comments. And I hope you will consider participating in the public hearing at the August council meeting. But certainly we know that the information is available on our website for a whole host of sources. So please, if you have any questions or you need anything from the town, you're looking for a source of accurate information, please make sure you check our website as the first stop. And if it's not available there, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to connect you with the appropriate information.
Mr. Mayor, anything else, sir?
Yeah, and I think I see a question. I don't have my glasses on, but if you're worried about code enforcement for the mask ordinance, contact the town, ask for the code enforcement office. I mean, Lauren is happy to help, but she's not an enforcement person. but Lauren is a liaison with business, and she does an excellent job at that. But we're at the stage now where we're trying to help business. They may want the sign. They may want to know, well, what can I do if half the customers walk in and they refuse a mask or whatever? And we get it. I don't want anybody to think that right now in the town of Mount Pleasant, that if you're a business and you call, or if you're a customer of a business and you say, hey, and I saw a comment on the chat, they were in a grocery store and a bunch of people, even a manager, didn't have it on. If you give us a call, that we're not going to go hit them with a stick. We're just going to call them and say, hey, we're all doing this to cut down on the rate of spread, and please do this. It went into effect on July 1st. So that's one thing, that I would leave everybody with. And the other thing, I want to assure you that with our committee meetings today, our upcoming council meeting, and we're going to have a special called council meeting on the comp plan and the building heights thing, we are picking back up with the normal day-to-day things of the town. Yes, we've been in an emergency, and yes, I think we've handled that very well. Not perfectly, but especially at the decision-making point, but I think our staff has handled everything almost darn near perfectly. But we are getting back to normal and keeping those approvals and we'll get the comp plan done and those things. But this has been an extraordinary time, and I appreciate everybody's patience.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you, Mr. Mayor, for all that you're doing. And Lauren, we appreciate you for all that you're doing as well. We thank you very much both for your time each and every Monday. A reminder for the members that are watching, you can visit our website, mountpleasantchamber.org. You can visit the Coronavirus Resource Center page. There's a tab there at the top of the page. Click that. You'll be directed over to the page where there are a number of offers and updates for members. We've also got all kinds of information from a national, regional, and state and local vantage point in regards to the virus itself. We've got a number of links to our webinars, the PPP information, whatever you need from us in regards to the coronavirus, you can visit the Resource Center page and find it right there. Also, if you need a resource, connection to a person, if you want to just vent or ask a question of us as your chamber, please reach out to me directly, shane@mountpleasantchamber.org. You can also send us an email to the inbox, info@mountpleasantchamber.org. Mr. Mayor, Lauren, again, thanks very much for your time today. And as always, be safe, stay healthy, and keep moving forward. We'll see you back here next Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Yeah.